welcome back to this tutorial on the technical aspects of coding. You see there are a number of things that you need to know. I mean, these are all mouse clicks. How to create new codes, applying existing ones, modifying boundaries, unlinking, replacing, removing, and so on. This is actually rather quickly explained, and also you learn that very quickly. The more difficult issues are the more methodological ones in how to build up a coding system. We also need a bit of experience and some practice, and maybe the first, second, and third project. I mean, this you learn within an hour, and the other stuff you have to take slowly, and maybe also watch the stuff on how to build a coding system, and learn while you go along. But this bit is the easiest part of it. So I have opened the sample project, which I've created in another video tutorial, and I'm just opening up, loading a document. And well, I'm not reading the stuff, it's not meaningful coding in a sense, I'm just showing you the mouse clicks and what to code. I mean, you could code as little as just one character, but just maybe coding motherhood with motherhood might not be that meaningful. So we always need a bit more context, and I say a bit more on that if you have a few more codes. So if you start and if you have no codes yet, we can simply start with creating new codes, and that is right-clicking on the highlighted segments and clicking on the coding button or option here, and enter a new code name. So I create just 4 test codes that I can use to play around with. So I can at the same time also add another code if I want to code with multiple codes, if I wanted to do that. So here we can actually see still the term open coding. That was also the menu option, or the name of the menu option in version 6. Basically, you shouldn't refuse or confuse that with open coding in grounded theory. It's the same term, and I guess they also where they got the menu name for. But open coding in grounded theory means you basically create your entire coding system with categories and their properties and dimensions. So here it basically means to create a new code. So please don't mix up menu options that sound similar to what you read in the literature, but they may not mean the same here. So now we see that quotation bar here on the side and 2 codes alongside. If I start overlapping, and I just go this way again, creating new codes. For now, you see as soon as I enter T, it suggests other codes that start either with the same word, or if it occurs somewhere within. So now I just take that code and I do another overlapping bit here, and you see now I'm going to have colors on my screen. These colors are determined by Atlas, and if I do some more overlap, then I get purple and blue. So these colors just tell me that that green test3 code actually refers to that green bar here for the quotation. That gray one is not referring here, to that smaller one. It's referring to the long one. So it just helps you to see which of the codes here in the margin area belongs to which quotation bar. And that's quite helpful if there's lots of dense coding going on. So what this also shows you that we often have multiple meanings within one paragraph. So don't hesitate to overlap codes, to add 2 codes to a segment if there are multiple meanings in one sentence, for example, or some overlapping meanings that are starting with one sentence and then but continues and the other sort has already finished. So that is actually quite normal. And also suggest to code quite precisely, not just attach everything to one big paragraph. Oh, this occurs and that occurs and that occurs, because then in the process of retrieval you have to read lots of uninteresting bits and pieces. So code as precisely as possible. So now I already have a few codes here, and if I open the code manager, my screen is, what I'm recording is not the full screen, so you can still see something on the screen, so that's why I'm a bit scrambled for space. We have no code families yet, and if we start coding there won't be any, so I hide that side panel here because we don't need it right now. So what you also see here, Atlas remembers the window size, and as I've been using this more space before, it opens up the window bigger. So the standard view is actually not that one, it's a detailed view, and it offers all kinds of information. Groundedness, density, families, the author, creation date, and so on. That is not necessarily something that you always need to look at. It just takes space on your screen. So groundedness is the frequency. As you see, we have applied each code once, no density yet. Density is not created by Atlas automatically. It has something to do with the network views and the linkages between codes. And those come in later in your analysis. Yeah, you can't say after 5 minutes that two codes are related. I mean, you don't even know after 5 minutes whether you don't change these codes over time. So density, that number will go up later on once you begin to create network views and you link codes to each other when you see where there are relationships between codes. So I actually prefer the single column view. You can also practice around with the other ones. The cloud one I find kind of funny. Yeah, and what we want, or what I usually suggest, is a single column view. So here you have all the information you need. You have the code name, you have the groundedness count, and the density count. And that's the type of information that's important when you code. And then you can also make the window as small as possible to fit everything on screen. So if I continue coding now, I can now actually use a code from here. I can just use drag and drop. And see, I drag now and drop here. I don't have to actually hit that piece here. If it happens to be just across, but if you mark something down here, you can just drag drop over here. You don't actually have to hit it. Different with PDF documents, different with images. You have to hit the highlighted bit, but not with text. So here you see the numbers are going up. I've used them now more than once. You can also, of course, drag drop to an existing quotation here, or that one is actually doesn't have to be highlighted, but it has to be a different code. Then I can drag drop onto a quotation bar here on the side. If I don't want that test 3 code here, I can just drag drop on top and then exchanging that code. I do it again, go back to test 3, and you see it's exchanging the code. If I drag drop onto the bar, I have a new code. Yeah, so these are quite, yeah, there's some quite other options, but let's just get started with that one. So here I kind of got only half the sentence, or missed the first bit. So I want to correct that. First of all, it needs to be highlighted, not by me doing it with the mouse, by you clicking on the quotation bar. Then I want that full sentence up to here. So I highlight what I actually want, and then the easiest option is to click on that modify button here in the size, in that vertical toolbar. That one is for revise quotation size. This is for setting a new quotation, create a new quotation, and that with a red arrow is for revising the quotation size. Watch the screen now, watch the quotation bar. You see it has been reduced. I make it smaller now, so you see what's happening here. But I can't just highlight something in between, it sees a stop sign. So I have to click above or below to get rid of the highlighted bit, and then I mark something smaller, watch the quotation bar again, and now it's just going to be much smaller. Let me do this again. So I increase that bit, I can just highlight a larger segment, and I click on modify. If I make something smaller, can't highlight within here, I need to click below or above. The highlighting is off and I select something smaller. This is how you modify quotation boundaries. I showed you the drag drop. Well, the unlinking, if you don't want to have that test1 code there anymore, you right click on the code and you unlink. You have to be careful. You get a different context menu here if you click on the quotation bar, where you have unlinked codes here, because now we're on the quotation. If you click on the code, we get a different context menu. So it's really context sensitive. Yeah, an easy way to get the quotation context menu is that one. It's longer because it has a few more options because we're on the text now, but then it's not like clicking here on that bar. You can just click here on the highlighted bit. That's also what you need to click if you want to get rid of that coding altogether. Yeah, if we just unlink the code, well, we still have that quotation now. Yeah, and then we have to delete the quotation. That's 2 steps. Yeah, we don't have to go through two steps. You can simply right click and say delete. And if you delete the quotation, of course the linked code is gone as well. So delete this quotation, so that's gone. So it's just reducing the number here for the code that had been applied. If I want to get rid of a code, well, I can just delete it here. Of course that's permanent, then it's gone for the entire hermeneutic unit. You can rename a code here. Just do right click rename, or you can do left click and left click again. That's in place name rename, that's how it's called. Or you can also create a new code within the code manager. Look for that button here. Every time you see it, it's there for creating a new item. It could be a new family, could be a new memo, PD family, code family, or a new code. So we have a new code now, not a new name. So the new code is not linked to anything yet, 0 groundness, 0 density, but now we have written it there and we can apply it. Yeah, so I'm just thinking about, if you had the thought as well, how to get in an already existing code list. Well, I do show that in the video on analyzing survey data, because then I just kind of generate some ideas for coding via the word frequency count or the word cloud, and then I also show you how to get in a code list of already existing codes if you have those already, or just read it up in the book. It's all in chapter 4 in the book. So now we have some option here. Well, as with the PD manager, we have a comment field down here, and that could be some first notes on the code, your ideas, what you want to code here. Or at some point, a more formal definition. Or as we call it, an anchor, with some sample text here. And the anchor's example then would be the German direct translation. I think you say that in English. Yeah, just a bit of a text, something similar to that piece of text that's we want to code here. And so I already said so it's very common that if you work in a team, that people define their codes, and then it's immediately visible if the code has a definition or some text written about it. You see that tilde sign here. So I can see very easily if people have defined codes and how many, or just a few, by just opening the code manager and checking for the tilde sign. So please do yourself a favor, if you're working on your own, do go and define your codes. That was the phone, sorry about that, but somebody else picked it up. And yeah, and so for you that you can trace your thoughts, and you know, if you don't work on your project for a week or so, you can remind yourself what you actually meant with that code. And for methodological reasons, also very important at some point to have a formal definition, and based on that, Atlas can also create a code book. Yeah, just another idea for a tutorial. So there are many ideas for that. Maybe there will be one on basically just to create a code book, just a short one. So you can do that within ATLAS.ti. So now we have, I've shown you how to unlink codes, how to delete codes. I'm just kind of going briefly through the option whether I have missed something here. Anything I wrote here, removing, replacing. Oh, it's not on the list, but it's under etc. Something I just remember I wanted to show you about quotation lengths. I just create an output now on these two quotations on the code. So output quotations for selected code. So just the first output option here. And you can output it to the editor, send it to the printer, save it as file. And the file and run option is always for quantitative Excel output, so we don't need that here. So move that into my space. So we have this identifying information, where that comes from, who created it, and so on. So if you output something, and if you read just 2 or 3 words here, and you know what these words mean, then basically you have coded sufficiently large segments. But if you read something here and you kind of think, I'm missing the context here, then your segments are too short. So that's what I mentioned before. If you just code a word, well, if you want to count, you'll use the word cruncher. Yeah, that gives you a word count in Atlas. That's under analysis. It counts the words, you get the frequencies. You don't have to code for just words that you're interested in. Yeah, so it's always the issue about in vivo codes. If I just mark responsible, go to coding in vivo, well, that bit is coded with responsible, and I have no idea about responsibility about what. It might be also not responsible. I need more context. So clicking that in vivo button basically helps me not to type the word. But then in the second step, I have to add more context and click on modify quotation boundary, so I actually know what this bit about responsibility is all about. So just a brief explanation of what this option is, but I think all programs have the in vivo code button, just to say they can have in vivo codes, because grounded theory made that fashionable. One aspect that I also want to show you is the personal user-defined colors. Yes, you see here that we have these colors defined by ATLAS.ti, and these may not be the colors you want. So in the code manager, you can highlight a group of codes or any single code and give it your own personal color. See what I'm doing? I'm just clicking here on that color circle here. Bright green and yellow, that works kind of well in the network view, but not very well in the code manager. Yeah, so there are some choices, but no, you can't use really all colors, otherwise you don't see them here. And get rid of that quotation code family panel again. So now I have my personal user defined colors, and here I have Atlas colors. So if I want to my personal colors here in the margin area, I right click and use the option use object colors, and this switches the colors to my personal user defined colors. And you see in front of each code I have a little small bar, and this still gives me the reference to the quotation bar. So the orange new code now belongs to the blue quotation bar, Here the responsible orange one to the purple quotation bar. And the green test 4 code belongs to the golden or brown quotation bar. So this is also an option you have to signal yourself either certain categories or in the beginning of your coding that you mark everything in red that still needs some work and so on. So you can be quite flexible with these colors, and probably going to change also throughout the project and for the different purposes you need the codes for and for the different phases in your research project. Yeah, that's, I think, is all what you need to know to get started on coding, on the technical bits and aspects of coding. I say goodbye, and maybe we see each other again in one of my other tutorials. Bye bye.